Hello learners, welcome to the session on the laws concerning wages, welfare and benefits. I am Dr. L.K. Jana. I am going to take you through a couple of very important legislations, labor legislations. One is the Payment of Wages Act 1936 and the other one is the Minimum Wages Act 1948. We start with Payment of Wages Act 1936 first, then we'll proceed on with its different paraphernalia and then we'll land on to the Minimum Wages Act 1948 later. Let's talk about the origin and development of the Payment of Wages Act. But before that, let's try to refer in terms of why this act is and how it has come to the Constitution of India. First of all, let's see why wage is important. Wage is one of the most important factor because that boosts our economy, that gives us a social life. So it has the wage itself has ethical, social, economic, political and psychological, legal ramifications in an organizational life. International Labour Organization, that's called ILO, has done many conventions and recommendations to lay down the principles and methods of paying the wages or fixing the wages for different countries. When it comes to the Constitution of India, which I have mentioned, it is enshrining the concept of social justice because that is one of the most important objectives of the state, because that it is seeking to achieve among other things through labor legislations. There are different legal frameworks on wages. One is like Payment of Wages Act 1936. Similarly, we'll also be touching on Minimum Wages Act 1948. We'll also be having Payment of Bonus Act 1965 and Equal Remuneration Act 1976, which we'll be discussing later. So let's start talking about the origin and development of Payment of Wages Act. It is started by Royal Commission on Labour in 1921. This commission has recommended that legislation on timely payment of wages, deduction from wages and fines were very much necessary and desirable. So Government of India, post to that, has introduced a bill in 1926, and this act that we are studying over here has come into force on 1937, and precisely it came in 28th of March 1937. The act is having around three parts. The first part is dealing with the regulation and payment of wages that is made by the employer. The part 2 of the act specifies different deductions that can be made from the wages. And the part 3 or the last part of the act that provides machinery for enforcing like specific claims that is arising out of the delayed in payment, deduction from wages or different appeals. And for your kind information learner, this is a very important act as I mentioned, and these three parts is covered in 26 sections. Let's talk about what is the object of the act. The object of the act is to regulate the payment of wages to certain class of persons who are employed in industry in a particular form and at a regular interval. And it also tries to prevent unauthorized deduction that is happening from the wage. So this act is concerned with fixation of wage period and not with fixation of wages. That way to keep in mind. Next comes the applicability. This act, this 26 section wala act is applicable to persons employed in any kind of factory, railway or any establishment wherein the state government may by its notification extends the provision of the act, but it has to give around 3 months of notice to that effect. So employees over here whose average wage is less than 1600 rupees is getting covered under this act, but wherein in 2002 there was an amendment that took place, payment of wages, and it provides the enhancement of the wage ceiling to 6,500 per month, but the act does not apply to person whose wage is rupees 24,000 or more per month as per the recent guidelines. The act also provides to the effect that the worker cannot contract out of any right conferred upon him under the Act itself. Let's talk about what are the different definitions that was being covered by the Act. The first and foremost definition, the wage. The wage, the meaning of the wage is the different remunerations that we are providing or extending by virtue of salary or allowances to our people. It is expressed in terms of money or capable of being so expressed with in the terms of employment that is expressed or implied or fulfilled. So when we are talking about wages, so let me talk to you about what are the things that wages normally cover as per the Payment of Wages Act. Number one, it is like any remuneration that is being payable when two parties are being settled for any award. So that point of time between the parties or the order of the court, whatever the remuneration that is payable under any award comes under wages. Any remuneration to which the person is employed is entitled in respect of overtime work or holidays or any leave period. Any sum, any amount that is actually by reason of the termination of employment of the person employed is capable under any law. And similarly, any kind of schemes, that person is entitled under the law which comes from time and again in force will be covered. Let's talk about what are the things that is not been covered in this wage. For example, the bonuses that they receive. For example, the value of any house accommodation or if the employer is supplying them with the light, water, medical attendance or amenities. Any contributions that the employer is making it for pension or provident fund, any traveling concession the employer extends it, any sum that is paid to the employed person to defray any special expenses or any gratuity payable that is during the time of termination of employment is basically not been included in this Act. The next important definition is the establishment. Establishment talks about the different places wherein this Act is applicable. Like for example, the air transport services, the dock workers, the raft workers, the jetty workers, the inland vessels, machines, mechanically propelled machinery, bearing places, the mine, quarry, oil field, plantations, workshops, establishments. So all those will be covered as a part of the establishment of this Act. Let's talk about the wage payment. The responsibility of the payment of wages under this Act is it is lying with the employer or his representative. Suppose in the absence of the employer, a person who employs the laborers and with whom they enter into a contract of employment will be counted as an employer. Learners, you need to mind it that no wage period shall exceed 1 month in any case. The main purpose of this provision is to ensure that inordinate delay is not caused in the payment of wages and that a long time does not elapse before wages are paid for the period for which an employee has worked. Where less than over here, as we are talking about in 1 month of the wage period. Similarly, where less than 1,000 people are employed, so wages need to be paid before the expiry of the 7th day. Please remember this. And in any other cases, before the expiry of the 10th day, that is after the last day of the wage period. So in case the employer terminates the service and employee, suppose, then the employee is entitled to receive the wage earned by him before the expiry of the 2nd working day from the day on which his employment has been terminated. And all the wages that is being paid shall be paid in current coin or currency note and both. The employer can obtain the written authorization of the employed person to pay the wages either by check or by online transactions by crediting into the bank account. Let's talk about the deduction from wages. Wages need to be paid to an employed person without deductions of any kind except those authorized. The term deduction basically has not been defined by this Act. But however, the Act has specified certain heads actually from which deduction from wages can be made. Deduction may be made by an employer with a written authorization of the employed person from the wages that is payable to such an employed person or payment of contribution to any welfare fund that is constituted by the employer for the welfare of the employed person. The total number of deduction which may be made in any wage period from the wages of an employed person should not exceed 75% of such wages where such deductions were wholly or partly made for payment to cooperative society, and in any other cases should be 50% of the such wages. So there are certain conditions and limitations also the Act has defined to which fines can be imposed. For example, a fine can be imposed for any acts or commissions that is specified by the employer and previously being approved by the state government. A notice to this effect, for such acts or omissions need to be exhibited on the premises in which the employment is carried out. A person involved must be informed in writing the reason for imposing the fine. So no fine should be imposed on an employed person who is under the age of 15 years. And similarly, no fine should be recovered from an employed person by installment after the expiry of 60 days from the day on which it was being imposed. The total amount of fine in one wage period also should not exceed an amount equal to 3% of that wage period. So all realization by way of fine need to be recorded in a register and must be applied for specific purpose as are beneficial to the persons employed in the factory or establishment as are approved by the prescribed authority. I think if you check the BAR Act itself, you can find out a list around, as per Payment of Wages Act, you may find that exhibit that is giving a list of around 18 authorized or permissible deductions what I have spoken. Let's talk about the authorities. The authorities over here, the Act makes the provision for the appointment of inspectors. The inspectors of factories is also the inspectors under this Act. The Act also provides for the appointment of person to the authority to be the authority to hear and decide for any specific areas, that is claims arising out of deductions. Any appeal lies against the decision of the authority to a court of small cause in a metropolitan town and before the district court elsewhere within a period of month. So this is about the authorities. Then let's talk about what are the obligations of employers. There are a series of obligations that an employer need to fulfill, like they need to fix the wage period, that is what I have told you, that it should not exceed 1 month, to pay the wages in cash or by check after taking written authorization of the employed person, to pay the wages on any working day, to make the deductions permissible from the wages of the employed person, and the employer need to ensure that the deduction should not exceed 75% where payment to a cooperative society is to be made, and in other cases the deduction should not exceed more than 50%. To seek actually before imposing any fine from the approval list of the acts that is defined in the Act as I told, and omissions from the prescribed authority, not to impose fine exceeding 3% of the wages on the employees, and to give so-called notice to the employed person before the employer is imposing any kind of fine. To recover the fine within 60 days of the date of offence, the employer need to follow, and to afford the facility to inspectors for their entry, inspection, supervising, examination or inquiry. So for making all this kind of Payment of Wages Act, the employer need to maintain a register with its company, or with the HR they need to maintain the register where there will be a register of wages, register of fines, deduction for damages or loss or advances which were recorded over there. So this is about the obligation of employers. Let me talk about, while ending this Act, let me talk about what are the obligation of employees. So every employee, whoever are working in a company, they are entitled to receive the wage in the prescribed wage period in cash or by check, or to the credit to his bank account. Nowadays you may be finding out an online transfer, so that is also applicable. To refuse to agree to any deduction and fines other than those authorized under the Act, to approach also within 6 months the prescribed authority to claim unpaid or delayed wages, unauthorized deductions and fines along with the compensation, and the employee also has the right to appeal against any kind of directions that is made by the authority if the amount of wages that is claims exceeded, suppose say rupees 100. So this is all about the Payment of Wages Act, which is an important part of the wage legislations. Let me move to the next. that is called as the Minimum Wages Act. Let's talk about the historical growth and development of minimum wages. The foundation of Minimum Wages Act is traceable to 1928, wherein the minimum wage fixing machinery of the International Labour Organization is coming to play. In 1928, the convention that was carried out by ILO has stood to be one of the most widely accepted instrument of the ILO. And then the minimum wages bill got introduced in the central legislature in 1946, just before our independence, and it was passed after the independence in 1948. For your kind information, learners, this particular act is having around 31 sections with it. Let's talk about the object of the act. First of all, why this act is? This act extends the concept of social justice to the workmen who are employed in scheduled employment by statutorily extending them the minimum rates of wages. So therefore, this minimum wages act is considered as a social legislation that provides protection to workers in employment, in which they are vulnerable to exploitations by the reason of lack of organization and bargaining power, and where sweated labor is prevalent. Let's talk about the applicability. The act is not applicable to actually all employments or industries. This act has come out with a schedule which is appended at the last of the act. If we get into the bare act itself, you can find out a schedule which was appended in the last page of the act itself that gives a list of employment that is covered. So it covers an establishment regardless of the numbers of workers who are actually being employed. Some of the employments are listed in part 1 of the schedule, that is there, and part 2 of the schedule is containing the employment in agriculture and different other allied activities. The appropriate government also, they may have the power to add to the schedule any other employment in respect of which they feel that the opinion of the minimum rates of wages should be fixed. The contract labor, falling within the purview of Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act, they are also supposed to be paid minimum wages under this act, that is governed under the Minimum Wages Act 1948. Let's talk about some of the important definitions that is enshrined in this act. One is called as an appropriate government. I think earlier I have repeated this word called appropriate government. The first one is the central government. Central government over here means for any scheduled employment that is being carried out under the authority of central government or railway administrations, or for a mine, oil field or major port or any other corporations established by a central act gets to be a definition under this act. Similarly, the state government, that is for any scheduled employment carried on within the territory of a state, is a part of it. Coming to the wages, the meaning of wages that we discussed in payment of wages also applies over here. Wages means all the remunerations that is payable of being expressed in terms of money, which would be in the term of contract of employment that is expressed or implied but fulfilled, and be payable to a person which is employed in respect of his employment. And what are the things that is not being covered under the wages? One is the value of any house accommodation. So, for example, the supply of light, water, medical attendance that the employer extends will not be covered. Or for any other kinds of amenity or services that is extended by an employer that excludes by general or specific order of the appropriate government is also being excluded. Any contribution that is paid by the employer to any pension fund or provident fund or under any scheme of social insurances will not be a part of this act. Similarly, an employer, if it extends the travel allowances, that is, or the travel concession, that is also not be a part of this act. Any sum that the employee is paying for defraying the special expenses is not going to be a part of this act, and any gratuity that is being payable on discharge of the services will also not be covered under this act. Now let's talk about the definition of an employer. Who is an employer? Employer means any person who is employing one or more employee in any scheduled employment in respect of which the minimum rates of wages have got to be fixed. So the term employer means It includes several people. For example, a manager of a factory who is defined under the Factories Act 1948, a head of the department, or any person who is appointed for the supervision and control of the employee. Or for example, in companies we have a CEO, chief executive officer, or any local authority. In case the scheduled employment is carried on under the central government or a local authority, so they are going to be fixed, or they are going to be counted in terms of as an employer. In any other case, the person who is responsible for supervision, control, or payment of the wages will also be falling under the definition of employer. Let's come to the definition of employee. Who is an employee? Employee means who is being employed for hire or reward to do any work under the employer. Okay, they may be in any form. For example, they may be skilled or semi-skilled or an unskilled or a manual worker or a clerical worker, but whatever it is, in a scheduled employment, they'll be part of the definition of an employee. Let's talk about what is the fixing of minimum rate of wages. See over here, in respect of an employment, it is the appropriate government, okay, whether it is a central government or a state government, it is the appropriate government which fixes and notifies the minimum rates of wages. And whatever the minimum rates of wages that is fixed, the employer over there is bound to pay every employee who is engaged in that employment at rates which is not less than the rates that is notified. The appropriate government may review the wages at such intervals what they think fit, but they need to see that it is not exceeding 5 years, and they need to periodically, that's why they need to periodically revise them. The appropriate government may refrain from fixing the minimum rates of wages in respect of any kind of scheduled employment wherein less than 1,000 employees are employed. So let's talk about the minimum rates of wages, where it gets to be fixed. The Act says that for different employments, or for different classes of the same employment, or for people who are engaged, for example, the children who are engaged in factories, or apprentices who are engaged, or for the adolescents who are engaged. These are all within the definition of the Factories Act 1948. There will be minimum rates of wages for the minimum rates of wages gets to be fixed. Similarly, what are the different types of minimum rates of wages? The rates of wages. So they may be in the form of for example, a time rate, or a piece rate, or a guaranteed time rate, or an overtime rate. And these rates are fixed by the hour, or by the day, or by the month, or by any other period, longer period as being prescribed. The rates are basically fixed in the form of a basic rates of wages plus a cost of living allowances and the cash value of concession in respect of supply of essential commodities at concessional rate. So while fixing or revising the minimum wage, the appropriate government need to appoint any committee or a subcommittee that they can consider necessary to hold any inquiries, or they can advise in respect of such fixations or revisions, whatever the case may be. And when the fixing of the minimum wage happens, the appropriate government may make a notification in the official gazette, publishing its proposal for the information of the persons who are likely to be affected thereby, and specify a date which should not be less than 2 months from the date of the notification. So after considering the advice of the said committee or representations received, the appropriate government then will go for notification in the gazette, fix or revise the minimum rates of wages. The Act also, it is empowering the state government to constitute the advisory body or the advisory board and coordinating the work of different committees and subcommittees, and then advise the government on the fixation of the minimum wages. Similarly, if you see in the central government, which is equally empowered to constitute a centrally advisory board to advise the central and state government and to coordinate the work of the advisory board. And when I am referring to the central government boards, these bodies also need to consist of an equal number of employers and employees representative, some independent person which should not exceed 1/3 of the total strength. The non-official members can also hold official positions for a period of 2 years or so. So that is the way they can constitute the committee and they can regulate the wages. The minimum wages that is payable under this Act are to be paid in cash, but it can also provide the authorization of payment in kind where the appropriate government considers it necessary. So, the appropriate government over here may also fix the number of hours of work, rest days, payment of overtime in respect of scheduled employment. One of the important thing is every employer in this case is required to maintain a set of registers, like the register of wages. Suppose the employee is giving overtime, so register of overtime payment, a muster roll of all the employees, the fines that they levy on these people, that register need to be kept, and register of deductions. Every employer is required also to put up a notice containing what the minimum rates of wages they are paying, or whatever the fixation of minimum rates, they have to put up in a notice, and they have to exhibit an extract of the acts and rules that is governed under the Minimum Wages Act 1948. And most importantly, they are supposed to send annual return to the Labour Commissioner as prescribed from time to time. Now comes to the other part called inspector. The appropriate government appoints an inspector for the purpose of this act and defines the local limits. The inspectors are whom? They are the public servants. Any person who is called upon to provide any relevant information is legally bound to provide information to these inspectors, who are appointed by the appropriate government under the provision of Indian Penal Code, IPC. Let's talk about the applicability authorities under the Act. The appropriate government may appoint by notification to the official gazette an authority who can hear or decide the claims that is arising out of the payment of wages at less than the minimum rates of wages, or any other incidental matters that was being caused by an employer. So an employee or any legal practitioners or any other officials of a registered trade union are authorized in writing, or any inspector can apply to the authority for settlement of dispute with respect to non-payment of or payment of less than the minimum wages. So this act is very strong. It is providing the civil court from entertaining any suits from the recovery of the minimum wages payable under this act. Now comes to the enforcement. So over here, central government actually is the appropriate authority for the enforcement of the act. And under the act under the authority of the central government, railway, administration, or mine or oil field, major port, corporations are all being established by a central act. The Chief Labour Commissioner, who is sitting at the center, actually is in charge of implementation of the act in the central sphere. Whereas in the state sphere, officers of the industrial relations machineries are entrusted with the enforcement of the act, in addition to the enforcement of different other labor laws. Now comes to the offences and penalties. The Act has laid down penalties for violation of the provisions of the Act. Say any contract or agreement whereby suppose an employee relinquishes or reduces his right under this Act shall be null and void. However, the Act does not prevent an individual from entering into an agreement which is more advantageous or beneficial to him. So these are the offences and penalties. Now finally, to conclude this act, when you are touching upon the obligations of employer, the obligation of the employer says once the minimum wages that is notified and become effective, the employer must pay to every employee who are engaged in a scheduled employment under him the wages at a rate not less than the minimum rates of wages that is fixed by such notification for those set or classes of employees. Second, the employer can make deductions out of wages, which is authorized. Third, the employer need to pay overtime, at double the ordinary rate of wages for the period of work that is done beyond the 9 hours on any day or 48 hours in any week or for rest day. I think this is defined already in the Factories Act 1948. The employer must pay the minimum wages in cash unless the appropriate government authorizes their payment, which is wholly or partly in kind. The government can also direct the supply of essential commodities at a very concessional rate by notifying it in the official gazette. Every employer need to issue also a pay slip to every employed person in a prescribed form containing the prescribed particulars like how much of income, how much of payment they have been made, and how much of deductions they have levied on that. Every employer shall get the signature, or say for example who are illiterate, they can take the thumb impression of every person who are employed on the wage group and the wage slips. The employer or his agent also need to authenticate the entries in the wage books and the wage slips. Another important provision is the employer shall allow a rest day with wages to the employees every week, which ordinarily need to fall on Sunday or any other day. No employee shall be required to work on a day fixed as rest day unless he is being paid with the wages for that day in the name of overtime. And if suppose a person is working on an overtime day, then they are also been allowed as a substituted rest day with wages. The employer shall not make a deduction from wages except those authorized by or under the rules. So this is all about the obligations of the employers, friends. So in total, in today's session, we have spoken about the Payment of Wages Act and the Minimum Wages Act 1948 in total. We spoke about the object of the act, we spoke about the applicability, the different definitions of the act. Particularly for the Payment of Wages Act, we spoke about the wage payment, the different types of deductions from the wages, and I also spoke about that there are an exhibit in the Payment of Wages Act that lists the authorized or permissible deductions. And similarly, we spoke about the authorities and obligations of the employers and employees. For Payment of Wages Act, we spoke about the employees, whereas in Minimum Wages Act, we spoke about the obligations of employers. So this is all about both the important acts that is governing the laws, that is the laws covering the wages, welfare and benefits. Thank you so much, friends.